what it was healthy for, what it wasn't healthy for. And one of the reasons why this Gemara is brought here, we discussed before about drinking undiluted wine. And we had in the Gemara,
No, we say what?
the wine, you should make sure that the wine should be diluted with water when you kosher bracha, because it's the wine when it's not diluted, it was too strong. Their wine was too strong. Some people have that minute, maybe in the shrine that they put some water in, right?
We have to do that when we want to wash.
What do you do when you wash?
Last time we were talking about washing wine.
Right, we're talking about, are you allowed to use wine to
Some
wash
water
your hands?
inside.
Right, we're
If it was
discussing,
only wine, that's all right.
and we said one opinion in the Gemara says that the wine, while it's raw, you could use it to wash your hands because it's not considered wine. And one opinion says it doesn't make a difference whether it's diluted or not, you cannot use it to wash your hands. You can't use wine to wash your hands for the Tilat Yadayim. We had different opinions in the Gemara, correct? And now we also have, so we spoke about raw wine, so the Gemara is going to be talking about a related subject about something that's raw wine. That's one opinion of why the Gemara is going to bring in the story. Tanarabanim, asparagus. Now, asparagus is we have a vegetable called asparagus, as we all know. And this asparagus that we're talking about over here, I'm not sure if the man knows that we are learning over here. There was a man. There was a man that was over here.
Yeah.
You might think that we are. You want to see if he's in Beit Midrash for a second, Mars? You see if someone's in Beit Midrash or not.
Well,
Look at tall man. He's on Aliyah. He was standing here. If he's in the Beit Midrash, he once came to our class, Mars. All right. You might be waiting there. Thank you very much. Morning, Mr. Haber. Okay, so the Gemara now is talking about asparagus. So what's this asparagus that the Gemara is talking about?
Asparagus.
Asparagus. So we understand asparagus is a vegetable. So this asparagus that the Gemara is talking about is, first of all, they read it ispargos. And the way the Orach says in the name of a Haigon, it's a type of cabbage. It's a type of cabbage. And they would take this cabbage and they would soak it in wine. And then they would soak it in wine. And then they would use that drink, that wine that got the properties of this asparagus as a healer. It was good for certain things. That's what, was he there, Morris, or he wasn't there? No, okay.
No.
Okay.
But you want to get some breakfast and come back.
Yes, I wonder if he realizes that we're upstairs. The man who got an aliyah today, one of the men that got an aliyah, tall man, he's saying Kaddish.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's asparagus, yaful alev. So we're talking about the wine. Morning. Haron, if you see the man that got an aliyah who's saying Kaddish that sits over there, 3 lines, yes, you can tell him we're up here. Because he said he wants to join the class. The last time he came, we were downstairs. You know what I'm saying? If you notice him, tell him up here. Thank you very much. So Morris, we just said this asparagus is a vegetable that they were type of cabbage. They would place into to wine, and after they would place it in the wine, they would drink it, and it was very good for the heart. It was very good for the eyes, and it was very good for the stomach, for the bowel movement. This asparagus, I don't know if it's our asparagus. It translates as a type of cabbage that was placed in wine, and they soaked it in the wine, and then they drank it. But the Gemara says, but if you drink it on a regular basis, it's beneficial for your whole body, not just for these specific not just for your heart, your eyes. We all know people say carrots are good for your eyes. I mean, they used to say that. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if you ever heard that, Mr. Haber. Heard it many times. So here we have this other type of thing that the Gemara is saying is healthy for different foods that we eat are healthy for certain.
Do they carry through? Are they only for a period of time, or do they, as the mentioned in the Gemara, it continued for years to come.
You see, sometimes we say, I mean, something that's mentioned in the Gemara, sometimes we say the nature of the people have changed, or the nature. And sometimes we say nishtana hateva, so sometimes something that might have been beneficial for physically.
Right.
The Torah doesn't change, but certain things in our nature, in our body, some things might have been beneficial in the past, might not be today. The Rambam has a diet which he talks about things that he feels are very healthy, and there are many people that try to follow that diet. But if you have it on a regular basis, it's good for your whole body. Like a lot of things in life, you do something on a regular basis, it gets part of your system, and it's good. But if you get drunk, if you overdo it, if you too much of this drink, then it's kosher l'chol gufo. It's not healthy for your whole body. Like a lot of things in life, if you have too much of this drink that you soak this in, if you overdo it, it's no good. Now, we had a question before early this morning regarding mikveh. If a lady went to the mikveh and she had a ring on, her finger. So the shulchan or other jewelry. So the Shulchan Aruch says, the Mechaber says, if the jewelry is loose, it's not considered an interruption. If the jewelry is loose, if a lady goes to now obviously we will not advise any woman to wear loose jewelry to go into the mikveh to dip. She should take all the jewelry off. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, if she went in, the jewelry was loose, she does not have to go back again. Interesting that the Pischei Tshuva brings down other opinions that say that even if it was loose, she has to go back in to the mikveh, but many disagree with that opinion. The Shulchan Aruch is clear. Shulchan Aruch is very clear that she does not, it's fine. It's not, she would not have to definitely not have to go back. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, it might even be allowed to even lechatchila go in the mikveh that way. Because he says it's not a chatzitza. So it could be, he might even allow it, but we definitely will not suggest it. But if it was loose.
If she went to the mikveh and she had loose jewelry on, it would not be.
It will not be a chatzitza. It will not be interesting. Similarly, there's, I think, a famous shuvah Moshe Feinstein. I think it's something very interesting, where the question was that the Gemara says a child of a nidah. If a woman did not go to the mikveh, the child is affected. That the child does not have great midot. The nature of the child is not as good as someone who comes from a woman who goes to the mikveh. So when Moshe Feinstein was asked, what do you mean? We see some children of women that did not go to the mikveh, and they have very beautiful midot, the children. So one thing that Moshe Feinstein says is, you know what? Maybe the mother when she was swimming in the ocean, she swam in an ocean and then she became pregnant after that. So technically she might not, and maybe she wasn't seeing blood at the time, and maybe whatever all the situation was. So maybe she wasn't the nida. Maybe. Now, she had clothing on, right? So it was loose. So now usually bathing suits are not loose, but technically, if it would have been loose, that's also said. It says in the halacha and the Shulchan Aruch, if a lady went into, if the clothing is loose, and she went to the mikveh with loose clothing, it also would be a mikveh. The mikveh would obviously will not tell anyone to go into the mikveh with their clothing on, but technically the halacha is that if the lady goes into the mikveh and she was wearing clothing and the clothing was loose, how do you like that, Mr. Ava? Loose clothing, it would take effect. That's in your Yeridea 198, 46. Says Nida that went to the mikveh with the clothing is mutal her husband after the fact. Sounds like from the Shulchan after the fact. She went with the clothing and the clothing was loose. And Mordechai Eliyahu clearly says not a bathing suit, because they're usually tight fitting, loose clothing. And so technically, if a lady would have gone to the mikveh with loose clothing, it would have been, because the water would have entered every part of her body, and therefore would not be considered. Again, you will never tell a woman to do such a thing. Definitely she should not do such a thing. But the question will be after the fact, what the halacha would be. I just wanted to get back to you. You brought it up early this morning. Want to get a little information on the subject. Again, hair has to, I can't be knotted. The hair has to be loose. Meaning what I understand, the women, they comb their hair before they go to the mikveh. They make sure there's no knots in the hair. If there's any knots in the hair, that will hold back the ability of the water to enter properly. So ladies' hair has to be finely combed. Therefore, there's some women that take a haircut, that they don't have such long hair because they want to make sure. That's what I understood, that some women don't have such long hair, meaning women who wear a hair covering, right? They wear hair covering all the time. One of the reasons why they don't have such long hair is because they want to make sure when they go to the mikveh that every hair is covered. But it's not it goes underneath, but it's not a problem because by the mikveh there's a lady there that observes to make sure that everything is the lady dips at everything or everything on her body. So therefore there's not to be concerned about that because someone's watching to make sure that everything is dipped properly.
There's some very good books on this, very simple books. Not simple, but very good books that have been written by members of the community. Restrictions all the way.
Okay. Mr. Haber, if you want to get me any of them, I'd love to have. I bought this one. We know this one, Yaron, Mordechai Eliyahu. The shul has 2 copies. He was the former Sephardi chief rabbi of Israel. This is a popular sefer that they have in Hebrew and in English. Okay, so the Gemara says, Tanar Rabbanan, asparagus, back to the Gemara, Yafa Lelev.
That's for everything about.
Right? That's everything, right? That's not just mikveh, Mr. Haber. This is all about. This has mikveh. It says mikveh is only a small section. It's like the laws of Nidah and the laws of all those.
I'll bring you.
Yeah, if you get very good. Okay. But make sure you keep for yourself also.
I have 1,000.
Okay, he has 1,000 of them. Okay, so we're looking forward, Mr. Haver. Okay, if you bring a few, if you have 1,000, we'll give out to our young members of the group. So Mr. Haver has his homework. Okay. And maybe you'll inscribe the ones for me, Mr. Haber. Okay. Now, okay. Thank you. Tanar Rabbanan. Asparagus yafa lelev. Everyone has it? Back in the Gemara, the 2 dots. Asparagus yafa lelev. It's right here. You find it somewhere? So it's good. Yaron, you have it? It's good for the heart. Tov le'inayim. It's good for the eyes. The kosakin le'ma'ayin. Certainly for the intestines, for the stomach. But if you drink it on a regular basis, yafa l'chagufo. It's good for your whole body. But if you drink too much, it's bad for your body. You tell me it's good for the heart. Because it's talking about wine, because we know that the wine that's used when you put this asparagus in wine, that's very healthy for the heart. Uktani, and then you said it's not only good for the heart, it's good for the inside, for the intestines. The Gemara said we have a brighter that we said something seemed differently. The la'at yafet. La'at is like an acronym. The lamed ayin tet. Lamed stands for the lave. The ayin stands for the ayin, the inayim, your eyes. The tet stands for the tchol, the spleen. This is good for we've learned it right there that the asparagus is good for the eyes, the heart, and the spleen, but l'ramat kosher. But for the ramat stands for the reish stands for rosh, your head. The mem stands for your inside, your intestines, and the hay stands for what do you want to say, Mr. Haver? And the tough stands for tachtoniot. Tachtoniot is like a sickness by the rectum. So we found that asparagus is bad for the intestines. So we have a contradiction. One place says that this drink It's good for the intestines. One place says it's bad for the intestines. How do we explain the parent contradiction? So the Gemara says it depends what type of wine you use. How old the wine is. If the wine is a newer type of wine, that's not as good because when the wine aged a little bit. If it's in its third year, then Kitanyahi, the Brisa said it's good for the stomach because if it's new wine, it's not going to be healthy for your stomach. The aging of the wine of this asparagus, having this vegetable soaked in the wine, and then you drink it, that's good for your stomach, is only if it's a ben shalosh shanim, only if it's in its third year. Kidetnan, like we learned in the Mishnah. What's the Mishnah? Konei miyayin shani to'im. A person says, I am forbidding upon myself wine. A guy makes a neder. We don't recommend, and we're going to end with this piece of the Gemara. We don't recommend anyone should ever make the darim. But if you make a vow, you might break it. It's a very serious offense if you break a vow. Never say, I swear. Never say, I make a vow. Therefore, that's why when you want to do a dvar mitzvah, you say, bili neder. Why? Because when the saying of saying I want to do a mitzvah is like a vow. That's why, if I say I'm going to go to the store to get myself a coffee, I don't have to say bili neder. Because that's not a mitzvah necessarily to get a cup of coffee. But if I say I'm going to go ahead and visit someone in the hospital, that's a mitzvah. Then I have to say bili neder. So here the guy, let's say knew that he has stomach trouble from wine. So he felt, you know what? If I go in and make a neder that I'm not going to have wine, that will make sure like a guy on a diet. How do I ensure I'm going to be honest in my diet? He wants to make a neder, but he shouldn't do that. But this guy made a vow, I'm not going to taste wine because wine is bad for my stomach. So I forbade wine wine is forbidden to me. Because it's bad for the stomach. They told the guy, what do you mean? Old wine is good for your stomach. What are you telling me? You're forbidding wine because wine is not good for your stomach? Old wine that's already 3 years old, it's good, it's in its third year, it's good for your stomach. So what are you forbidding wine from your stomach, for yourself, because you're afraid of the problem with the wine? It's good for you. Vishatak, and the guy was quiet. So what did the Gemara say? Also b'yayin chadash. That guy is only not allowed to drink new wine because that's what he had in mind in his neder. His neder was really because because it was a mistake the whole neder, the vow was the part of the wine that's old was a mistake. He mistaken. He thought all wine is no good for his stomach. So the fact that he made a neder in a ta'ov as a mistake. So the Ran says the neder is automatically off. That part of the vow does not take effect, but that whole vow was done like you have something called a mikach tos. The whole thing was a mistake. So therefore, that part of the vow does not take effect. But the new wine he cannot drink. Someone says, why? Because but he could do Hatar Nedarim, but because he made a vow. So until he gets exonerated, he says that he forbade upon himself wine because it's bad for his stomach. So therefore, it's clear that he only really intended he only really wanted to make a vow on wine if the wine is bad for his stomach. So the only wine that's bad for his stomach is the newer wine, and therefore he's not allowed to drink the new wine. What'd you say? It applies for new wine, but it does not apply for old wine, because old wine is good for him. Shmamina, therefore we prove from there that old wine is good for your stomach. So when the Braita that says that wine is no good, that's no good, when is wine not good? It would seem like not just the asparagus going into the wine, any wine. If you drink wine that was just freshly made, it might not be as good for your stomach as too harsh. Especially most probably the wine in those days, as we all know, the wine in days was very strong. It was much stronger than our wines today. Even though they diluted the wine, it's much stronger. Therefore, that's why if it's new, it's too harsh on the stomach in the beginning. Okay, everyone have a great Shabbat. We'll be back tomorrow, but tomorrow will be after. We're only going to have one session tomorrow after the minyan. Because most people are not, many people will be out of town tomorrow, right? You're going to be away, Mr. Ava? You'll be away? So everyone will have it after the minyan? Okay. And we'll start again on Monday, double session again on Monday. and Sunday, 10 o'clock on the Zoom.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day.
Thank you, Yosef Atzadik. You too.
Russian.
You too.
Why you pick your mouth?
Underneath.